We're back.
Here we are, create
Create
podcast
podcast. Oh, look at
time.
us. We sing in
I
unison.
know. We sing, we might dance next time.
Nothing is off the table.
Oh, let's put everything on the table.
How are you,
Speaking
Kristen?
of,
Yeah, speaking of,
we're going to
the
Europe. The moment everything's on the table, let's,
moment everything's on the table, Kristen and I plan a trip. That's really what happens.
it's dangerous. It's exciting. It's dangerous. Anything is possible. I don't know where life is going to take us. Are you ready?
We never do. I mean, you could open up the Pandora's box of our former trips to have a guess of where things might go, but it's just unfathomable.
And so, last podcast we introduced that we're about to take this Mary Magdalene pilgrimage, and we're going to go all through the places that she lived and she spoke and she did her ministry. Of course, the moment that we say that we're going to do this, whew, what starts coming in?
Life starts lifing the Mary Magdalene way. And it was really great because we kind of introduced this idea on the last podcast and said, if you want the information, if you want to come with us, here it is. But it's like as soon as we opened that door, as soon as we created the invitation, even just for ourselves and just putting it out there that, this is reality now, um, already so many things, as we said, started coming in. And then we got together for Kristen's birthday to celebrate sweet Kristen. And it was like the conversation was like rapid fire of so many things that we're noticing that are happening. And so we wanted to share. This podcast really started as our sacred conversations of our sacred friendship. And we had friends who were like, why don't you record this? We think we would want to listen to this. So we were like, okay. And, now we're many, many conversations later that this was the origin of why we did this podcast in the first place. And so it just really made sense that as soon as we sort of opened up this invitation in the podcast, it kind of went back to that original flame for us as well. And there was just so much potent to share. So we wanted to say, well, then it's already happening. We don't have to wait until we go to France to have this happen. Let's start having the conversation now so that the conversation can continue and deepen by the time we get there. So here we are. And we thought we'd let you know what's been coming in.
And it's interesting because when it was my birthday and it was such a beautiful birthday, I wish everyone could have seen how gorgeous you looked sitting at that table surrounded by flowers. It was like the most beautiful feminine dream as I like rounded the corner and was delighted. I was like, oh, my eyeballs, so much gorgeousness. If you go to my Instagram, you will see how beautiful Natalie looked that day. And as we sat down and we started talking, it's always like, what's going on in your life? What's going on in my life? And immediately we start to see some similarities. We see that mirror thing going on. And then suddenly we go, okay, well, what do we think this is asking us to see? What here wants to emerge? And from that place, what felt like a key fell into our laps. And that was on authorship, self-authorship, and how often we look to the outer world to go, am I happy? Am I safe? Is everything going well? Who am I? Who do you think I am? And it was like we got just plunged into this deep lesson on you decide. Who are you? Who do you know that you are from the inside? And then can you start living that way no matter what's going on the outside? And I think I was sharing with you that that has been like the big thing that I have watched the trans community really model is when someone goes, oh, I know who I am on the inside. I will live like who I know I am. And how that has given me a lot of permission to go, oh, oh, inside, I can feel into my being who I am, what I came for, the work I'm here to do. And I don't need anyone else to co-sign on that for me to live it fully.
Mm. And it feels like every conversation in some way that we have had on this podcast or about creativity is that creativity is a birth. It is birthing something that has not been here before. It is downloading, hearing, seeing. We all have different ways that our creativity communicates with us, and a writer might sit down to write and hear conversations and write it down, and someone else might have a visual of it, or you might pick up a script and you just start to know what you want to do with it. There's all of these ways that it's like the force, the essence of creativity itself wants to flow through you, but it's something that has not been yet. And so part of really tapping into that nonlinear feminine intelligence that we all have is really having an access point to that, so that something that isn't here, something I don't know, something I don't identify with or as, can come through. And so, what was coming through for my own personal experience around authorship is that I had been thinking a lot and working a lot with this idea of 3D reality or carbon reality. It's like I look around and I see life a certain way. And because I'm looking around and seeing life a certain way, I make judgments about life. I have preferences about life. I have opinions about life. And so often, even when you think about your dream, you don't necessarily dream what could be. You dream what you think is possible based on what you think life has available to you. So I know so many actors that are like, well, maybe I used to think that I'd like the Oscar, and now I just think I would like a job that gives me house insurance or something like that, right? It's like you kind of minimize possibility, or you even diminish yourself in relationship to 3D reality, because you're just looking at what you think you can get based on what you can see, based on what is here. And something I've been really interested in lately is there's this etheric reality. There's ether, there's the 5D, that is beyond what we see. And so when we think about creativity, it's creativity itself as like an idea that wants to be birthed, or something that you can create, or a relationship that you could have. That's not coming from the 3D reality. That's coming from the etheric, that's coming from 5D. And much of the time, we just don't think that's on the table because we don't see it, because it's not here. And what I was really feeling juiced up about, that I felt like was part of Mary Magdalene's teaching to us or offering to us, is every single thing that she lived hadn't been lived before she lived it. The example of Jesus, like this divine entity coming to earth, that hadn't happened before, as far as we knew. And there was this opportunity to say, no matter how things look, there's more available. There's more available for you. You can play with a bigger playground than you think you're looking at. And what happens to you, what happens to your heart, what happens to your life, what happens to the fire, what happens to the ambition, what happens to how you create and how you be with reality, quote unquote, when you expand your concept of reality to be bigger than what you see as on the table for you right now in this moment, based on what's in your 3D.
Yes, and what just dropped in as you were saying that was, oh, and it's all you are already connected beyond what you can see. Just by being a human being walking around, you are informed by so many generations back that are already living through you and unfolding in you. And then also the way that the ripple effect happens in the world, the way that you take an action and it affects everything. So the way you see the world affects what you see and how you are. And then every decision you make all day long creates a series of ripple effects, right? So from every direction, whew, and then just like the trees have their interconnected network that are talking to each other all the time, we are connected energetically, right? We're constantly giving and receiving information. Like the amount, I was just hearing this yesterday, like the millions of pieces of information we take in, like per second, with all of our senses. There is so much going on, and there's so much we don't know about. And so the moment that we go, whew, I am ready to uh, see past what I've allowed myself to see. right? And like I think of A Course in Miracles, and they say that a miracle is a change in perception. So that there, I'm ready to be able to hold that there's all sorts of unseen, maybe invisible help all around me, that my energy is felt all around me, that my choices create a ripple effect on the world, and that I'm connected to the earth. The earth is in dialogue with me. Whew, maybe there's something else going on here. And maybe I can feel into my own body and start letting myself expand out and say, I am receptive to this whole world that is always in conversation with me. And from this place, I always think about how Mary talked about if you go into the center of your heart, into the center of your being, that's where you are one with all that is. And there's like a divine correspondence that happens there. And I think when we go into that center, it has been my experience that I hear very clear instructions. And I know this from working with other artists. Just when I'm a director directing a scene, I can tell when an actor has an impulse and it comes from the center of who they are. You can feel it in a room, right? You can sit in an acting class and watch an actor and go, "Oh, there was an impulse. That was a real organic impulse that came up out of your body," right? And as artists, what we're teaching ourselves how to do is to listen to the thing that comes from the center of us, that which is natural, that place that is the spark of our life force, that place where we are totally connected to our spirit, our soul, whatever you want to call it. And when we're acting from that place, from the truth of who we know ourselves to be, and we start walking in the world, then we start to see and live and interact in a different world than when we had a limited perception of ourselves. Just yesterday, oh my goodness, I had a playwright. I took you have the hot summer day in New York. I got a little ice cream cone because I thought it would be fabulous. I took myself on a walk down by the Hudson, and a playwright who is writing a piece that I'm sure no one will be surprised to hear is about witches throughout the ages. Um, and she texted me, magic happens every time a woman is true to herself. And I was like, mic drop. And I think that's true for all people, right? So if I'm aware that a magic happens every time I'm true to myself, then that requires me to keep going back to that place that sits inside the middle of my heart and be true to what is the information that I'm getting here? And how do I start to define myself from this place and not from what I think is out there or my limited perception of what is out there?
Yes. And I think that what happens is we get disconnected from that place pretty early on. Anytime you have an experience of yourself and someone says that's too much, or you should be quiet, or I don't like that, then we start to second guess and contort and we shut it down. We shut down that part where like we're not sure. And ultimately, when we bring this back to authorship, it's almost like Mary's message is like, you write the story. You have the quill in your hand and you get to write this. You get to say what this is. You get to create whatever you want. And you've been given information inside of you. You have been given those impulses. You've been given things that want to be coded here in the universe. And it's been given to your system to code it. And yet, from a very early age, we start to hand the pen over to someone else because someone else says, "Well, I like you less when you do that." And we say, "Okay, well then let me not do that." And so all of life, and whether it's culture, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a family of origin, whether it's a romantic partner, it's like all of life has this way of giving us feedback about what they think is working, what they think isn't, what it should be, what it shouldn't be, what the preference is. And rather than having the authorship of saying, Thank you so much for that feedback. And here's what my truth is. In spite of that feedback. Like, and it might be, ooh, I take that in, and that might, give me a twinkle of something else. And, absolutely, it's not about being resistant to, that feedback. If you're directing me and you say, think it should be this way, then I'm like, oh, thank you for that. Let's see. Let's run that through. But I think we forget that it's like, let's take that feedback and run it through my system and see if there's an alchemy of what you're offering with what I know my truth to be. That's a whole different process than you offering something and me saying, oh, I must have been wrong.
Right.
Shutting down the truth so that then 3D reality ends up being the author. And everything in it, everything I interact with ends up being the author. And it was really about what happens when you take the authorship back, when you say, I know who I am in truth. I know what this is. I know what this expression is. And I'm so willing to collaborate with life and with the 3D reality. But there's a nurturing of when you receive it from the 5D, it's coming through you for a reason because you have what it needs and you have the ability to bring it forward without anything else getting involved. And so, can we nurture it? It's almost like, when the baby was in my body, that's all she needed to grow was my body. She didn't need all this outside influence and eat this and do this. And my inner knowing would say, I think I'm craving walnuts. And then you'd go to the doctor. They say, oh, her brain's growing this month. You should eat walnuts. I'm like, yeah, got the message. It's like we have it. We have it. And so can we put the pen back in our hand and first thing, not just write the story of what our life is and what it can be and what our creativity can be and what our expression can be from anything that might exist already, including other people's opinions about our work and what's possible for us. And then once we have the pen in our hand and sort of like to the absence of current given circumstances, we say, this is what I'm here for and this is what I want to write. Then when we start to get it from the 5D, can we nurture it and hold it as so sacred that I am the steward of this thing and I'm going to bring it forward no matter what?
Yes. Oh, yes. And as you were talking, I my mind saw Justin Schumann, our friend who does the videos on Instagram, and he talks a lot about self-healing through just talking to camera. And he did this video that really landed for me. That was all about when you were a kid, without realizing it, you developed a persona, a mask, a performance of who you were that kept you safe, that kept you from being rejected, that everyone else approved of, right? You created this part of yourself. And you've been performing that ever since. And it's become so ingrained, you don't realize it's a performance anymore. And so the process that he talks about of like just talking to camera and being willing to show up and be seen is a healing process because you start to get to know who's there behind the performance. And that made me think of, oh, well, when I am working with writers and artists, that's the whole deal is we start to honor the expression that comes through us as an act of self-healing. So just saying, I have this hour to write, and I'm going to honor whatever comes through me because here it is, and it's who I am, and it's coming from a place inside of me. That is healing to the child who never got a permission to be seen. And when we don't make that expression be any different than what just naturally comes through. So we start to teach our body again that what comes through us naturally, without force, without effort, without contorting, is beautiful and holy and worthy, right? That is so healing for the nervous system. I don't have to try, I don't have to push, I don't have to force. I can just be who I am naturally. And it's beautiful and it's worthy and it's gorgeous, right? Just as it is. And then as I start to become willing to share that, I am now telling the child self that who you are naturally is worthy of being seen,
Mm.
right? So it's giving that love to the child and saying, you're you get to be seen as you are, and who you are is gorgeous. So as we take our expression into the world, right? So we get the message, it comes inside. This is the truth of who I am. This is the truth of what I want to say. And then we express it however way is our medium, right? And that can be running our business or writing a script or acting in a scene or making art, however it is, writing a song, dancing. We give ourselves permission to follow what feels natural to us, to live what lights up in our heart, because it is our authorship, and we get to decide this is what feels most truthful and authentic to me. And then we give that as an act of healing to the world and to model this is what it looks like. It heals me as I do it because in that moment, I am the loving parent who's saying, yeah, baby, go. Who you are is worthy. And I am also the vulnerable child that says, this is what feels true to me. And
Yeah.
and that validation that happens in that moment is the self-healing. And so as we all start to learn how to do this together, because each one of us has keys of truth, keys of healing, we all have these different, I want to say, like it's like we all have the solutions inside of us. And as we all give permission to allow these solutions, allow this healing balm to come forth, we also all get to receive it. And for me, that is the Christ consciousness that's coming forward right now. It's the Sangha, it's the community together, all of us at the same time saying, I am willing to do my own healing work, express from that place, model what it looks like, and then we all get to benefit from it. And in that way, we all get to rise together.
Mm. Yes. And I think it's a really the self-love and the self-healing piece feels so important because when you start to reach beyond 3D reality, when you start to stand for it, everyone will think you're crazy. They'll say you're delusional. You're like, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Because I'm standing for something potent that you can't see. And I can't ask you to understand it. It can't be about you. It has to be about my devotion to what wants to come through gets bigger than the noise of how anyone else feels about it. Because, and I had this experience where I had this project and the producer said, "You're our choice," and the director said, "You're our choice." And they sent me a deal memo. They're like, "Here you go. Like you're going to be doing this role, right?" But then I kept feeling in my body of like, but there's no contract. There hasn't been, like it hasn't like, it hasn't. And I had this thing and I reached out to one of my reps and I said, "So, should I be working on this thing? Should I be learning this thing?" And she said, "Well, that's up to you. Like that's your choice." And I got really into my body because it was like you could wait until, for sure it's signed on the dotted line and start living as if this is happening, or you can live as if it's happening now, but that's a personal choice. And I was like, "Oh, I see what I'm being asked. I see what I'm being asked." In 3D reality, I don't have this job 100%. In 5D reality, I could decide I do, and I could live in a way that makes me feel like I'm the author of my own story. And so I was getting up every morning at 5 a.m. with the script and working on it. And I was enjoy working on it. I would have my coffee and I was just sitting outside and I was having that living embodied experience of like, oh, my family is asleep and I'm up working on my script because I'm a working actress and this is what my normal looks like. This is what my life looks like. Like this is what my series regular life feels like, where my personal life, my vacation life, my family life, and my being an actress life are all integrated and they're all together. And it was feeling so juicy. And I was so in love with the embodiment. And then I found out after several days of doing this, and I was like really off book. It was like a 118-page script, and I was like really like, oh, I could be ready to go, you know. And I found out just a few days before shooting that it actually, you know, there was a circumstance, and it was actually not going to go my way after all of that. And I really checked in, and I was like, oh, how do I feel about this? And in truth, there wasn't any single part of my body that thought this isn't fair. Not one. And I was like, wow, what a surprise. I'm kind of surprised that I don't feel that way. But here was what the feeling was of like, I was in absolute authorship that I am a living, breathing, working actress. And I lived that. So I'll get to live that again. And now I'm going to just have some vacation with my family. And so it wasn't like I did all of that and didn't get the results. That's 3D reality version. The 5D reality was I got to entrain my nervous system to what I'm building as my new normal. And the particulars of which job I'm doing this for don't actually matter. The embodiment is what matters because I decided and I wrote the story of who I was going to be. And so it's none of my business which job in 3D reality that living expression is for. It just matters who I'm being. And it was my one of my first times really feeling the difference in my body, in my embodiment of what it feels like to not do something just for the results, but to do something for really truly how it changed me to do it. And that's what the key of really living in the authorship feel like gave me.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. That's what it looks like.
Oh, I love that story so much. I remember when I was out in LA and you sent me a voice note about your experience. Just listening to it, I got kind of high because it did. I was like, oh my gosh, tail wag and everything. Um, I was like, yes, that's the calling. It's to live who we know we are without attachment to the outcome
Yeah.
or the process itself. Because what happens if the process itself becomes fulfilling?
Mm.
What happens if we actually start to go, ooh, how I do it is as important as what I do, and the
Mm.
feeling tone in my body as I do it is as important as what I'm here to make. In fact, perhaps if I plug into the feeling tone of this moment and how it feels right now as I'm doing it, maybe the end will take care of itself. Maybe
Mm.
the end is none of my business. Maybe the path is not up to me, but I get to author this moment. And so
Yes.
it's very interesting because we've been trying to author other moments out in the future. And in that, we totally abdicate this moment.
Yes,
Right?
that's it. That's
Right.
it.
So we're letting this moment go on like weird autopilot because we're like, but because I want that thing a month from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But like the authorship calls you back into this moment. And what if just talking to Natalie Roy on this Zoom recording, I let this be the most fun thing in the whole world? Who do I have to become in order to let like this conversation, this moment, this expression be the party, right? Changes the game. And then when I take that kind of presence to every moment of my life, ooh, I stop abandoning myself. I stop betraying myself. I stop going off in my head in flights of fancy about the past or the future, because I am, whoo, coming right here, right now and bringing all of my full self.
Which is changing reality.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing we got. I can't wait to see where this continues to lead. We're actually already starting to get more keys and more intel, but we will save that for a
Yeah.
future podcast. But this To have the understanding in your nervous system, in your body, as you're listening or as you're walking or whatever, as you're driving, whatever you're doing, as you're having this moment, that there is a way that we use reality to get out of the present. And this is an opportunity to use a different reality, sourcing a different reality to get into the present and to notice how much juice, how much joy, how much power, how much is available from that operating system. And I mean, if this is where we're starting, I just can't wait to see where we're going.
Oh, it is so fun. It's so fun to play with you and like feel these things drop in. They feel like gifts. And the self-authorship, I'm so excited to continue to remind myself to keep coming back to that place over and over again as as part of this conversation
Yeah.
that Mary Magdalene is having with us across time and space.
And if you're into this, you can just keep on listening to the podcast because we're going to keep talking about this as it emerges and as it comes up. And you might also be one of ththese people that says, I have so much internalized about that name and what it represents and the association with, the church and religion. And just know that how we are approaching this is as an energy. Is what she represents in her energetic offering. And so, if any of the language feels sticky to you, you can, in the same way, some people use the word God and other people use consciousness and other people use universe, you can open yourself to an understanding of her and of the energy that she offers and the essence of that and the frequency of that. You can open yourself, if you choose, to be in this conversation from whatever place feels holy and sacred to you.
Yes, like you can think of it like an archetype that we're playing with, like the way that you would step into a queen archetype or a maiden archetype and explore what's there for you. So we're just stepping into the Mary Magdalene archetype. We're stepping into that energy and we're saying, ooh, when we step into it, what does that feel like? And then as artists, as living artists, when we step into communion with that archetype, with that message, that person, what starts to come through us? What wants to start to live as us? Sometimes I do it as a writer, you know. I'll pretend, and this is like one of my fun games I play, just because it makes the writing more fun. I'll go, what would happen right now if Nora Ephron plopped into my body and started to write through me? All
Yes.
of a sudden, my writing starts to change and play and poo 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 poo, and I find things I might not have found before.
Yes.
Um, and I'm sure as an actor, like, right, the moment you step into a different character, you find different parts of yourself. You might start to walk different or talk different. So we're playing with this energy. And this energy is like a really fun way for us to discover and look at life from a different perspective.
And if this shift in perspective, miracle consciousness is jiving for you, then we want to invite you for this pilgrimage. And how it works is you don't have to get on an airplane and fly and do this pilgrimage with us. You can do it from wherever you are. You can do it from your phone. We are going to embark on this pilgrimage, and how it will work is we will do an opening Zoom call, a private Zoom call only for people who have signed up for this container with us. And then we will walk through this pilgrimage. Kristen and I will do it in real time. We will be boots on the ground. We will be there. We will be doing it, and we will be dropping videos and activations and recordings and what we're getting all along the route, all along the way. So it's as if you are there, you're there virtually, and you can get all of the potency. There is an opportunity for you to be in community with the other people who are doing it as well. So there can be this dialogue and this community of all of the people that are going to be on this walk together virtually. And then at the end, after we're through the whole process, we're going to do a wrap up Zoom that is going to sort of conclude the energy and, all in our community, in our group will get to, share and see what has occurred for us. And Kristen and I will kind of ritualize and make sacred the finale of this incredible journey. So you get us over the course, it's really over the course of almost 3 weeks
Yeah.
altogether.
And I have a vision that they're going to get the behind the scenes moments in our
Oh,
friendship.
100%.
Like those videos, like late at night when we're all giggly, when we find a great restaurant, when we're at
Yes.
deep talk, no makeup on, or like when the hotel loses our reservation or what have you. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So we'll just be rolling and giving you like, here's the real thing happening.
Yes.
I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, because like sh it'll all show up in the whole thing. So you'll just get this sort of backstage version of everything as it's showing up for us. And we've really made this commitment of utter transparency and vulnerability of, nothing's off the table. Like whatever we're experiencing, we're here to share it and to offer it as an offering to the community and to each other. So, if you want to come on this journey with us virtually, we're going to put all the information into the show notes, and we would just love to get to know you through this lens and through this shift in perception.
Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for being committed to showing up for your dreams.
If you would like to know more about what we are up to or find more information about our podcasts, upcoming retreats, or anything else, please go check out our website, www.thecreateseries.com.
And you can come and jam with us on Facebook. I know we're still on Facebook. We have a Create community page, and that's Create C.R.E.A.T.E..
And if you want to check us out on Instagram, you can find me, Natalie, at Miss Natalie Roy.
And you can find me at Hangy Love. That's HANGGILOVE.
Keep on rocking your dreams, and we can't wait to connect with you more.